You ever catch someone lying so perfectly, you start doubting your own sanity? I thought I was crazy until I found their secrets uploaded to my work slideshow. Yeah, a jewelry receipt, a hotel booking, and a selfie that ended careers. They thought I'd stay quiet. Instead, I hit play. You're not ready for how this story ends. My name is Jenna. I'm 33 years old, and this is how I turned their betrayal into my blueprint for power. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The peppermint cocoa was already lukewarm in my hands. Still sweet, still familiar. But tonight, even the sugar felt like it was hiding something. The surface shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights, a little film of foam trembling when I exhaled. I took one small sip and felt the cool edge of the ceramic mug against my lip, the scent of peppermint mixing with the artificial pine from the decorations. For a second, I wished it would burn, just to remind me I was still capable of feeling something sharp. We were in the office auditorium, our company's annual Christmas party. Twinkling lights wrapped around the stage like tinsel garlands. Plastic snowflakes hung from the ceiling tiles, spinning slowly above our heads with the lazy motion of the HVAC. Someone had set the playlist to holiday pop, but the speakers kept cutting out every few songs, leaving the crowd to fill in the silence with that awkward forced cheer you hear in elevators during December. There were too many red and green chairs, too much laughter echoing off the walls. Too many people pretending that this year hadn't nearly broken all of us. The smell of reheated catering trays drifted through the air, garlic bread, meatballs, some kind of overcooked pasta that looked festive under the fairy lights. And still, I smiled. I always smiled. It's what they expected from me. Organized, dependable Jenna. The one who made spreadsheets festive. The one who kept morale high, as my manager liked to say in meetings I was never invited to. I stood near the podium, holding the remote to the projector in my right hand. The spotlight was warm against the back of my neck, like a sun I didn't ask for. I could feel sweat prickling just under the collar of my dress, that itchy blend of nerves and anger that pretends to be professionalism. And somewhere in the front row, my boyfriend was whispering something to the woman beside him. Her name was Kelsey. He called her his work sister. Everyone else called her the smile with knives. She leaned into him like she always did, one hand gripping a candy cane, the other resting conveniently close to his thigh. She laughed a second too long at whatever he said, the kind of laugh that doesn't belong to humor but to intention. And he didn't even look at me. The corner of his mouth twitched with something like guilt, but not enough to matter. They didn't expect me to notice, or maybe they just didn't care anymore. So I breathed in cocoa and peppermint, paper plates and cheap perfume, the scent of betrayal disguised as a holiday gathering. Then I clicked the remote. The first slide came up, a goofy team selfie with Santa hats. Everyone laughed. Second slide, photos of the gift exchange, awkward hugs and gift bags and ribbons sticking to people's shoes. I heard someone shout "classic" from the back, and for a moment I almost joined them. Then, a new slide. It didn't belong. A high-resolution photo of a receipt. Jewelry store. 1,230 ARs, $64, dated 2 days ago. Gift message. For the woman who makes work worth it. No name. No signature. But I didn't need one, because my boyfriend's face had just gone ghost white. And Kelsey, she dropped her candy cane. Literally. It clinked on the floor like a little red warning bell, rolling slowly under the chair in front of her until it stopped at someone's heel. The room didn't gasp yet. They were still trying to understand what they were looking at, but I already knew. And I didn't flinch. My fingers tightened on the remote. I took one small step toward the mic, feeling the stage creak beneath my heels. The sound sliced through the music still playing faintly somewhere in the background. I lifted the mic with both hands. It felt heavier than I remembered. Maybe it was the weight of truth. Maybe it was the end finally arriving. This slide wasn't part of my original file, I said. My voice came out calm, too calm. So let's see what else someone added. There it was, a ripple through the crowd, shoulders turned. Laughter died. I could see my reflection in the dark projector screen beside me. Eyes steady, jaw set. The image of a woman who had finally decided she was done being small. I clicked again. A screenshot now. Order confirmation from the same jewelry site. Sent to his email. Subject line: Your order has shipped. His name in the top corner. Our company email domain underneath. I waited. My heartbeat was a steady metronome in my ears, each beat syncing with the faint hum of the projector fan. Click. Next slide. A grainy photo of him walking through our office parking lot, holding a small white shopping bag with the store logo, taken from the second-floor stairwell window. The timestamp matched the receipt. He shook his head slightly, mouth opening like he was about to speak, but nothing came out. The air between us felt electric, charged with the collective realization of 100 people pretending to look at their phones. I could hear the soft buzz of the exit sign. Someone coughed. The smell of peppermint had turned bitter. Click. Hotel booking confirmation. Downtown Nashville. Booked for that same night. Check in at 6:40 p.m. Room service included. HR shifted in their seats. One of the senior managers stood halfway up, then sat back down slowly, eyes wide. Another whisper rippled through the audience, the kind of whisper that carries judgment and fascination in equal measure. I felt it wash over me like static, and I clicked again. Last slide. A selfie. Bathroom mirror. The lighting terrible. The arrogance not. Kelsey's face against his. The necklace unmistakable around her neck. Still wearing her work sister badge lanyard. Like it was a joke. A cruel one. Now the gasps came. Real ones. Loud. Sharp. A collective sound of disbelief, embarrassment, and something like admiration. I stood still, letting the silence wrap around me. Not angry. Not emotional. Just done. The kind of done that doesn't shake or cry. The kind that rebuilds. He whispered my name finally. Jason. Jenna, wait, this isn't what it looks like. His voice cracked mid-sentence, a plea caught somewhere between apology and fear. I didn't even turn to him. Me. Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like. The words left my mouth with the clean precision of a blade. No tremor, no regret. Click, black screen, end of slideshow. The projector's fan kept whirring, the only sound in the room. For a moment, no one moved. Not HR, not management, not even Kelsey, who sat frozen with her lips parted, still wearing that half-smile that had gotten her through so many lies. I took a breath. The air felt cleaner now, lighter somehow. Then I walked away, slowly, each step measured. My heels clicked against the linoleum floor, echoing like punctuation marks in a sentence that had just rewritten itself. People parted without speaking, creating a narrow path through the maze of red and green chairs. I didn't look back, not once, because I knew what I'd left behind wasn't worth another glance. Outside, the night air hit me like clarity, cold, sharp, and honest. My reflection stared back from the glass doors, makeup perfect, posture unbroken, the kind of woman who no longer needed an audience to validate her truth. Somewhere inside, the music started again, tinny and desperate, like the party was pretending it could recover. But I knew better. The show wasn't over. The real one had just started. The silence that followed wasn't the awkward kind. It was heavy, dense, like everyone was holding the same breath, and no one dared to be the first to exhale. The air seemed to thicken, as if the whole room was suspended in that single frozen moment between disbelief and consequence. I could hear the faint buzz of the ceiling lights, the kind of sound you only notice when everything else stops. The projector hummed behind me, still cooling, its fan spinning softly as if trying to erase what it had just revealed. I didn't speak again. I didn't need to. My hand slowly lowered the remote onto the podium. The click of plastic against wood sounded louder than it should have. Final. Behind me, the screen had gone dark, but the image still hung in the air like smoke. Her smile, that necklace, his arm around her waist, like they hadn't just spit in my face in front of the entire company. It was all still there, burned into the collective retinas of everyone watching. I could feel their eyes flicking between me and the blank screen, trying to decide whether to look away or witness whatever came next. HR moved first. Dana, our HR manager, sensible bob haircut, always in slacks even on jeans day, stood up, smoothing her cardigan like that would help. She looked like someone who'd seen small fires before. But this was a building collapsing in real time. Her face had that calm HR mask, the one that says, "I'm handling this even when she's not sure how." Dana, "We'll be pausing the event for a few minutes. Please remain in your seats." Her voice carried through the microphone system still on from the presentation. It echoed off the walls, sterile, rehearsed. But the command beneath it was clear. Don't move. Don't react. Don't make this worse. I stepped off the stage, walked down the center aisle like I was floating. Every pair of eyes followed me. The air parted around me, a quiet current of disbelief trailing in my wake. Not a single person looked away, except Kelsey. She stared down at her lap like she could make herself disappear, like the candy cane shards on the floor were more important than the bomb that just exploded around her. I could see her fingers trembling, nails digging into her palm as if pain could pull her back into reality. Jason tried to reach for me. He stood up too fast, stumbled slightly. His chair clattered backward and hit the leg of the table behind him, the sound sharp enough to slice through the murmuring crowd. Jason. "Jenna, come on. We can talk about this." His voice cracked halfway through my name. The same voice that used to whisper goodnight, that used to sound like safety, now just sounded pathetic. I didn't stop, didn't even flinch when his hand grazed my coat sleeve. Me. Don't touch me. 4 words, but they cracked something in him. I saw it, that flicker of panic. The first realization that this wasn't just embarrassment. This was exposure. Real, raw, unforgiving. His mouth opened again, but nothing came out. Just that faint tremor in his jaw, like he was trying to hold on to an argument that no longer existed. And I hadn't raised my voice once. HR closed in fast. They didn't ask questions. They didn't have to. Dana's heels clicked briskly on the tile as she approached, her tone clipped and formal. "Dana. Jason, Kelsey, we need to speak with you both, privately." Kelsey's voice came out small, thin, like tissue paper. Kelsey. "I don't think this is... I didn't know she'd..." Dana. "Now." 2 other managers followed them out. One of them, Greg, glanced at me as he passed. Not with pity. With something quieter. Respect, maybe. Or relief that someone had finally said what no one else ever dared to. The doors closed behind them with a soft thud that sounded like punctuation, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt like I could breathe again. The crowd slowly started talking, but not in full voices. It was 1,000 whispers stacked on top of each other, half shocked, half awed. Words like unbelievable, did you see, and holy floated through the air like static. I caught fragments, glances, that electric mixture of gossip and admiration. Someone clapped once, then stopped. It wasn't celebration. It was recognition. I didn't ruin her. I just stopped protecting her from consequences. I walked to the back of the auditorium, grabbed my coat from the chair, and pulled it on slowly. Wool, soft, still smelled like cedar from the closet. I ran my hand down the sleeve, straightening it like muscle memory. That coat had seen promotions, funerals, late nights in offices that never felt warm enough. It had been there through everything, silent witness to every version of me I'd been forced to become. As I passed the refreshment table, I saw my friend Danny. She'd helped decorate the day before. We weren't close, but she always looked out for me. She had this way of reading a room faster than anyone else. Her eyes found mine instantly. She didn't say anything, just handed me my tote bag, already zipped up, like she knew I wouldn't be staying. I nodded. She nodded back. A small gesture, but it meant everything. The kind of silent support that doesn't demand words or attention. Just presence. Outside, the December air bit at my cheeks. It smelled like wood smoke and old pavement. Tennessee winters aren't always snowy, but they're always cold. The parking lot shimmered faintly under the yellow glow of streetlights. Cars lined up in neat rows, hoods dusted with a thin layer of frost. I stood by my car for a minute, just listening, not to anything around me, to myself. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking. I thought I'd be devastated. I thought I'd be destroyed. But I wasn't, because I hadn't just found out tonight. I'd known for weeks. The whispers, the weird shifts in his routine, the sudden interest in working late, even when no deadlines loomed. The way his phone always stayed face down now, as if gravity could hide guilt. I'd seen it all unfold like a slow leak, and I let it. I watched it, measured it, until I was sure. But what sealed it was the shared drive. Our company uses a slideshow program that pulls from the shared team folder. Auto syncs, no manual uploads needed. It's simple, efficient, and if someone forgets their gallery is connected, well, they end up uploading their own secrets. He had no idea. Not a clue. His phone synced months ago during a work training session when we were testing remote access. I remember that day clearly, Jason cursing under his breath, claiming the IT process was too invasive. I'd laughed it off. It's just a test, I'd said. He never turned it off. So every time he snapped a photo or saved an email confirmation, it was waiting. Right there, in the cloud, like confession letters stacked neatly in a digital drawer. I can still remember the moment I found it, sitting at my desk late one Friday, eyes tired, sipping coffee gone cold. The folder was right there, glowing blue. I clicked without hesitation. Each file loaded like a slow reveal in a movie I didn't want to watch but couldn't look away from. Their faces, their messages, their receipts, every lie cataloged with a timestamp. All I did was open it, sort by most recent, and press play. My hands didn't shake. My pulse didn't rise. There was no cinematic heartbreak, no tears. Just clarity. Cold, perfect clarity. They weren't betrayed by me. They were betrayed by their own stupidity. And the universe, for once, had handed me the evidence. I got into my car. The seat was cold, the leather stiff against my palms as I gripped the wheel. I started the engine. The low hum of the heater filled the quiet like a sigh. Christmas lights flickered in the rearview mirror as I pulled out of the parking lot. They used to mean warmth, magic, love. Tonight, they just looked like a warning. Red, green, blinking like stoplights for a version of me that didn't exist anymore. The road stretched ahead, dark and slick with the faint glisten of frost. I rolled down the window an inch, letting the cold rush in, sharp and bracing. Somewhere behind me, laughter tried to restart. I could almost hear the awkward attempts at normalcy echoing through the glass doors of the auditorium, but I didn't care. For the first time in a long time, the silence around me didn't feel empty. It felt earned. It felt like the beginning of something I hadn't dared to imagine yet. Freedom. I didn't go home that night. Not to the apartment we shared. Not to the couch where we once fell asleep watching Seinfeld reruns. Not to the kitchen where his coffee mug still sat by the sink, like a promise he never planned to keep. The idea of walking back into that space, still thick with his cologne and ghosted laughter, felt unbearable. Every object would have whispered a lie I already knew too well. So I drove west instead, out past the gas stations and shuttered diners, past the ice-glazed trees that lined the county road like quiet sentinels. The highway lights thinned until it was just me and the steady rhythm of the tires over frost-crusted asphalt. The radio stayed off. The silence was cleaner, more honest. Headlights carved long tunnels through the fog as I passed fields sleeping under winter. Each mile peeled away a little more of the ache. I ended up at a hotel outside Franklin. Not the one from the slideshow. God, no. This one was old, quiet, run by a widow who didn't ask questions. The lobby smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and dusted pine cones. A small Christmas tree blinked in one corner, half its bulbs dead, the rest flickering like tired fireflies. She handed me the key in silence. Room 203, second floor. No elevator, but I didn't care. Her hands were soft, her eyes knowing. The kind of woman who'd seen stories collapse behind too many closed doors. I murmured thanks and climbed the narrow carpeted stairs, my suitcase wheels thudding against each step in time with my pulse. That night, I curled into the twin bed with the TV off and my thoughts loud. Not angry thoughts, just sorting. The heater rattled softly against the wall, exhaling bursts of warmth that couldn't quite reach my feet. The ceiling bore water stains shaped like maps, and I traced them with my eyes as memories unfolded one by one. Every memory, every moment, every lie wrapped in kindness, like the time he brought me flowers after missing my birthday dinner, or when he blamed my paranoia for asking why Kelsey texted him at 2 a.m. I let him convince me I was insecure, emotional, too sensitive. He called it love, but what he really meant was control. Each recollection surfaced like bubbles in deep water, quiet but impossible to ignore. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. No tears, not yet. Just the steady hum of betrayal settling in my bones like cold air, the kind of cold that doesn't fade when the sun rises. Back at the office, fallout had already begun. I got the email from HR at 8:13 a.m. sharp. Subject: Statement Review. Internal Investigation. The phrasing was clinical, stripped of emotion, but between the lines I could feel the urgency. They weren't playing around. Jason and Kelsey were both placed on immediate administrative leave pending further review. The slideshow, they said, constituted misuse of company assets and potential ethical breaches. I almost laughed. Ethical breaches? They hadn't seen half of what I held back. I hadn't even included the Slack messages or the doorbell cam footage from my own apartment, Jason sneaking back in at 3:27 a.m. after claiming he was out of town, still wearing the same shirt from the hotel mirror selfie. I didn't send that to HR, not yet, because this wasn't just about getting even, it was about reclaiming the story. They thought I'd break, that I'd melt into the background and disappear like so many women before me. But I didn't. I rebuilt, slowly, quietly, without asking for permission. First, I moved all our shared finances into a separate account. Legally, everything tied to me was protected. He'd never gotten around to putting his name on anything real. Just the things that were convenient. Credit cards, streaming services, the easy stuff. Next, I filed for sole ownership of the apartment. I'd bought it before we met. He just lingered. His toothbrush by the sink, his clothes in drawers he never paid for. I called my lawyer that afternoon and spoke words that felt heavier and truer than I expected. Remove him. And then I talked to IT, not to report him, not directly, but to ask for a list of all auto-synced devices connected to the shared drive. Just for data cleanup, I said. They sent the list within the hour. Jason's phone ID was right there. Synced, active, still pushing photos every 48 hours. I stared at that line of text for a long moment, watching the small blinking cursor beside his device name. It felt alive, like the system itself was confessing. So I waited. Let the cloud build its little file of guilt. Didn't touch a thing, just watched it grow. Evidence, pattern, proof. The folder expanded quietly in the background, a digital time capsule of deceit updating itself without my help. Every new photo was another nail sealing his fate. Meanwhile, texts from Jason started piling up. Jason, can we talk? Jason, this got blown way out of proportion. Jason, I miss you, please. You know me. I didn't respond. I let silence do the talking. Silence had a language of its own. Calm, deliberate, final. It said more than any argument could, until one message stopped me cold. Jason, you humiliated me in front of everyone. I hope it was worth it. That one made me smile. Not because it hurt, but because it told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't sorry. He was embarrassed. He didn't care that he broke something real. He cared that people saw him do it. And that was power. The kind he never thought I had. The kind he tried to bury under cheap charm and gaslight apologies. The kind that didn't shout or demand. It simply existed, undeniable. I kept the message, screenshotted it, labeled the folder Closure. The name felt right, clean. It sat beside folders called HR Evidence, Cloud Sync Backups, and Lease Ownership Transfer. Each file a brick in the foundation of the life I was building without him. Little by little, I was reclaiming the life he tried to borrow, and the voice he tried to quiet. I could almost feel my old self returning, sharper, steadier, unafraid. He stole my story. I rewrote the ending. Word count, 10,411 characters. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't always look like a knife. Sometimes it looks like an arm around your shoulder, a shared drink at a Christmas party, a text that says, "Be home soon," when he never planned to be. It's subtle, soft. It blends into your daily life so quietly that by the time you realize it's there, it's already everywhere. You start to question yourself. Was it always this sharp, or did I just get used to the sting? I stayed quiet in the weeks after, not out of fear, out of focus, because power, real power, is never loud. It's patient, strategic. It doesn't announce itself, it arrives. It walks in wearing calm like armor and lets everyone else mistake silence for surrender. The office never quite recovered. Rumors swirled like snow flurries, light, constant, impossible to stop. Every hallway conversation carried a pulse of curiosity. Some said HR found even more in their emails. Others swore they saw Kelsey crying in the parking lot, makeup streaked and voice raised, screaming at Jason over who should have deleted what. I heard snippets at the coffee station, caught glances during meetings, but no one dared say it in front of me. They all wanted the story, but not the responsibility of being part of it. I didn't confirm or deny anything. I kept my head down, did my work, smiled in meetings. But people looked at me differently, like I was glass before, and now I was steel. The shift was subtle at first, an extra second of eye contact, a softer tone when they said my name. Even the managers, especially the ones who once cut me off mid-sentence in strategy calls, they listened now, not performatively, but truly, like they finally saw the woman they'd overlooked. One afternoon, Greg, the same manager who gave me that glance the night of the slideshow, pulled me aside near the coffee machine. He had that nervous half-smile people wear when they want to compliment you but aren't sure if they're allowed to. Greg, I'm not going to pretend this hasn't been a mess, but the way you handled it, that was something. I nodded, didn't smile, didn't say thank you. Me. I just told the truth. Let the screen do the rest. He looked like he wanted to say more. Maybe an apology for all the times he'd dismissed my ideas. Maybe a warning that HR still had questions. But he didn't, because really, what was there to say? They'd all seen it. Slide by slide, secret by secret. And even the ones who pretended not to care were still checking their cloud folders twice a day now. I wasn't trying to become a symbol. But somehow, I did. The women in the office started reaching out. Quietly. One sent me an email titled just, "Wow." No body text, just that subject line and her name. Another left a post-it on my desk with a simple line, "Heard, respected." I kept it tucked in my planner between the pages marked with meetings I now led. Even the intern, barely 22 and always nervous, caught me in the break room and whispered, "Intern." That was the most powerful thing I've ever seen. I just nodded. Because truthfully, I wasn't sure how I felt yet. Not triumphant, not broken, just free. The kind of freedom that comes with no longer needing to explain yourself. Then came the meeting. HR called it a policy recalibration, but we all knew it was a cleanup job. The conference room was packed. Stiff chairs, the smell of burnt coffee, the hum of tension. Dana stood at the front, hair neat, voice steady, eyes darting. She outlined new rules for personal device syncs, tighter restrictions on shared folders, and more emphasis on ethical conduct and workplace boundaries. Her tone was neutral, but every sentence carried a shadow of what had happened. But what really caught my attention was the sudden reshuffling of roles. Kelsey's position? Dissolved. Jason's? Under review. The company couldn't fire them fast enough for what they did outside the office. But the misuse of systems, the embarrassment, that they could act on, and they did. I didn't celebrate, didn't throw a party. I went home, lit a candle, and let the silence be enough. The flame flickered against the window, reflecting off the glass like a heartbeat. My apartment smelled faintly of vanilla and rain from the open window. The city outside was muted, blurred by drizzle. That night, I sat on the floor with a shoebox of memories, photos, movie stubs, birthday cards he gave me. The ink had started to fade on some of them. I didn't rip them up, didn't burn them, just looked. Because I needed to remember who I had been, the girl who wanted to believe him, the woman who gave second chances. I needed to say goodbye to her, not with vengeance, with clarity. I traced one of the birthday cards with my finger. His handwriting was careful, deliberate. "You make everything better," it said. I almost laughed, because I had made everything better, except myself. That part I was fixing now. The next day, I sent one final email to HR titled Follow-up, Additional Materials. Attached were 3 files, a screenshot of Jason's message, accusing me of humiliating him, the video file from my doorbell cam showing his late-night return, necklace box in hand, a document detailing how his access remained active weeks after he claimed he disconnected. No commentary, no emotion, just facts. I reread the email once, twice, then hit send. The whoosh of it leaving my outbox felt like closure, a digital sigh of relief. I didn't need to scream to be heard. I didn't need to cry to be taken seriously. I just needed to let the truth walk into the room before I did. The next time I saw Jason wasn't in the office. It was 2 weeks later. Grocery store parking lot. Middle of the afternoon, the sky cold and pale above Nashville. The kind of afternoon that feels colorless, sunlight drained out, air brittle, wind slicing through layers no matter how thick your coat is. The asphalt was slick from a morning drizzle, reflecting the pale sky and broken patches between faded parking lines. He looked thinner, like someone had deflated him from the inside out. The confident tilt of his shoulders was gone. His walk had that hesitant rhythm of someone learning how to move again after losing something they didn't know they depended on. He pushed a cart with one hand, the other stuffed in his jacket pocket like he was holding himself together. His hair was longer than I remembered, unstyled, uneven at the edges. There was no swagger in his walk, no confidence in the way he tried to meet my eyes. I stood there by my cart, arms crossed, watching him fumble for words. The cold wind caught the loose strands of my hair and tugged them across my face. My breath came out in short clouds. I could smell the faint sweetness of grocery store bakery air drifting toward us, donuts and disinfectant. His face said he didn't expect to run into me. His mouth, still full of excuses. Jason. Jenna, Look, can we talk? Just for a second? Me. You used your second. You used all of them. He blinked like that hurt, but not enough to stop him. His jaw clenched, that same stubborn tick that used to appear whenever I caught him lying and he tried to turn it into a debate. Jason, you made me look like a monster in front of everyone. I tilted my head slightly. The grocery cart handle was cold under my fingers. Me. You did that. I just pressed play. That's when his voice cracked. That paper-thin wall between arrogance and regret finally buckled. Jason, you ruined my career. HR won't even return my calls. Do you understand what you did to me? His words spilled out like static, loud but hollow. I watched his breath fog in the air and disappear, just like the sympathy he thought I still had. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice. Me. I understand exactly what I did, and I sleep just fine. The silence between us stretched, the parking lot suddenly too quiet. The sound of a shopping cart wheel squeaking somewhere in the distance filled the space he didn't know how to occupy anymore. He stared at me, waiting for softness. But I wasn't a soft place to land anymore. I had turned into something sharper, smarter, the kind of sharp that doesn't cut to wound. It cuts to separate truth from pretense. He walked away after that. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even look back. I watched him go, the collar of his jacket pulled high, his figure shrinking between rows of parked cars until he vanished behind a silver SUV. And I didn't feel triumph. I felt closure, the kind of quiet finality that doesn't come with applause, just peace. Back at the office, things changed, quietly but completely. The air itself felt lighter, as if the walls were finally exhaling after holding tension for too long. People spoke in lower tones, moved more deliberately. Gossip had burned itself out and left behind a kind of respect shaped like silence. Kelsey never returned. Rumor was she tried to sue for wrongful termination, but with all the digital evidence, even her lawyer dropped the case. Someone mentioned she'd moved out of state, started over under a new last name. Nashville has a way of remembering faces. She needed somewhere with shorter memories. Jason? He vanished. No job, no apology. Just another cautionary tale in a city full of them. His name floated through HR emails now and then, always attached to words like policy violation or non-rehirable, the kind of legacy that fits on one line in a spreadsheet. I was offered a promotion. Project lead, more money, more visibility. When Dana called me into her office to tell me, her tone was gentle, careful, as if she was testing the temperature of the room before stepping inside. Dana, you've earned this. You handled yourself with remarkable restraint. I thanked her, but the truth was, restraint wasn't about control anymore. It was about choice. I took the promotion, not for revenge, for myself. Because I knew now, you don't always get justice in a courtroom. Sometimes you get it on a projector screen, in front of a room full of people who never thought you'd speak. And when you do, you don't shout. You don't cry. You simply let the truth do what it was always meant to do, shatter the illusion. They called me emotional. I gave them facts. They called me jealous. I showed them evidence. And when they called me cold, I reminded them what warmth they threw away. My days became steady again. Emails, meetings, deadlines. But it wasn't the same rhythm. It was quieter, more deliberate. I'd sit by the window during lunch, watching sunlight move across my desk. There was peace in knowing I'd stopped trying to prove my worth to people who never intended to see it. Sometimes Danny would stop by with coffee. We didn't talk about that night. We didn't need to. Once, she left a small card on my desk that said, "Steel can shine too." I kept it pinned above my monitor, a reminder that transformation isn't loud, it's patient. At home, I redecorated. Small things first, new curtains, fresh paint in the kitchen, a single wine glass instead of a matching pair. Every change felt like reclaiming territory. The apartment no longer felt haunted. It felt mine again. One evening, I found myself on the balcony, candle lit, watching the city lights blink in slow rhythm. My reflection in the glass door looked different now. Still me, but more defined. Like the edges had finally caught up with the outline. Some betrayals don't leave bruises, just silence. But I learned how to speak through that silence. And when the time came, I let the screen do the talking. He synced his secrets to the slideshow. So I let the screen tell the story for me. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.